Welcome back to Daria Reviews Star Trek Online. Last time we got a slate new ship and a new kind of enemy to test it out on. We also learned a little more about what's going on in Romulan space, and surprise, surprise, the Empire are the bad guys here. They seem to be having some internal issues though, which leads us into the last Federation exclusive mission in this arc. Your new friends in the Romulan Republic have a lead on the Hobus supernova. When they tried to grab her, she escaped using an Iconian gateway, but now they have a lead on how to find her again. So you head out to the rendezvous point in the Hobus system and meet your Romulan counterpart. Evidently your exploits have made the rounds.
I heard about how you got your first command. Well done. Not every officer could have stood up to the Borg like you did.
Getting to business, though, Republican agents have apparently discovered hard evidence that Taris and her people were behind the Hobus supernova. She admitted as much to an agent, but
she claimed that she was deceived by Hakiv.
Taris also claims to be working with the long-dead Iconians, who were wiped out thousands of years ago. She thinks they can go back in time and explode Romulus.
So not only is she a killer, she's insane.
It's important to stop Taris before she can make things worse than they already are, which brings you to the mission at hand. You're introduced to Jarek's posh reclaimed Borg first in command.
Greetings. I am Lieutenant Gaius Salon.
Who briefs us on the plan. Basically, nobody should be out here, but recently some remans with loyalty to Taris have been poking around. You're going to cause enough trouble for them to request backup, lay low, and follow the backup back to where they came from. Commander Jarrock gets an emergency call and has to leave, but she leaves Gaius with you to help out. You start by investigating mineral deposits for signs of recent mining and traces of the elements thought to be instrumental in the supernova event. You find protomatter, which much like TNT has legitimate civilian uses but also makes a great bomb, and decalithium, which is probably great for a polar disorder before a remand patrol shows up. They put up a bit of a fight, just enough to mix things up a little but not enough to break a sweat, and you get back to your scans. Pretty quickly you find Techosite, which along with the protomatter and decalithium are exactly what it's believed was used to blow up Hobus, and Romulus by extension. Now you can head over to where the Republic last found Taris and hopefully find some more remans. There's a shielded facility there, but before you can get too much of a look, a reman ship deck cloaks and hails you. He conveniently confirms that he works for Taris, so you engage, firing to disable this time. This fight is a little tougher, but he still goes down pretty quick and you move like 2 feet away to hide. Fortunately, the mask energy signature button makes you invisible. The Commander Aaron, who you were waiting for, shows up and you're able to tail him out of the system. You end up following him all the way to the Iconia system, but Arangu isn't immediately visible. Suspecting him to be cloaked nearby, you scan the planet and find a facility planetside. You also find a remand ship deck cloaking, probably that Arangu from earlier.
I am Commander Shanclado of the Riemann starship Intraku.
Oof, and I thought that other guy's name was stupid. Anyway, this guy wants you to leave, but you don't want to do that, so you kill him. Gaius Hackerman some codes off of the remand before he died, which allow you to beam straight into the facility. Once inside, scans are looking promising. After fighting some guards, you find that they were attempting to merge Romulan and Iconian tech here. Merging tech is only good when the Federation does it, so this is bad news. The logs in the computer confirm that the materials here and in the Hobus system have the same quantum signature, which is some real slam-dunk forensic techno-babble. You also find one of Taris' personal logs. You learn about her internalized racism.
He is Romulan. Treachery is his heritage, as it is mine.
And how she was tricked by Hakiv. She thinks that the Iconians can undo the damage she did, but she also calls them the Dark Masters, which is never a thing that good guys call themselves, so good luck with that. She ends the log lamenting that no one believes her crazy bullshit. The door to the next room is locked, so you expertly hack into it, not screwing up even one time.
Neato.
In the next room you find more guards, including Aranu finally, and Taris herself.
Have it.
You take them all out only for a bunch to spawn in a cutscene and peace out through a portal she just opened, abandoning Taris to your mercy. But first you shoot her a bunch. She rants at you a little.
I hope you realize that in stopping me, you have doomed billions of Romulans to remain dead.
But surrenders. You disable the portal and give the place a once-over, finding even more evidence connecting Taris and this facility to Hobus. Beaming back up to your ship, you start to head out but are stopped cold by several Romulan ships deck cloaking. It is, of course, Sulla.
I feel like we are becoming old friends.
Your work here has played right into her plans,
I could not have asked for a more obedient tool.
and all she needs now is for you to hand over Taris. Fortunately, it is at this moment that Commander Jarok arrives with a goodly share of Federation muscle in tow.
Good thing we brought some backup.
Sulla makes one last bid to intimidate you. You tell her to fuck off, and she goes her own way more amicably than you might expect, frankly. Then you hand off Taris to someone with a little more firepower and catch up with Jarok in return, Gaius. Following up with Admiral Tanae, she reflects on the Hobus event that brought us here.
This one horrible act set off a chain of reactions that could change the galaxy forever.
She believes Taris should be a fruitful source of intelligence, but wants to know more about Arena's forces.
Hello and welcome back to Jane Lane Critiques. This mission has a bit less variety than the last, so it's fortunate that things look nice. The Hobus system looks appropriately messed up. Shattered moons and clouds of brightly colored something or another, with space lightning going off all over the place all builds a nice atmosphere. Gaius calls it a hot zone, and it superficially fits the bill. There are no environmental hazards to back that up, but when those do show up in stow, they're mostly just a pain in the ass, though I don't mind them being absent. The other locations are a little less interesting, but they look fine overall. The facility on Iconia looks suitably abandoned, what with there being spider webs everywhere. Although it does sort of beg the question of where the spiders came from. Did the web survive thousands of years after Iconia was leveled? Were these 3 rooms a sort of spider terrarium for some time after that? Did the remans bring them? These are the important questions. For once, I have a comment on the sound design beyond just the mere presence of voice acting. Shocking, I know. The opening section has some pretty effective ambient distant thunder type sounds going on. Combined with the visuals, it helps give the impression of a place that's barren and dangerous. As for the voice acting, it's fine. One big improvement on this arc from the last is that it's far less common for a character to have only some of their lines be voiced in a mission. There's still plenty of unvoiced dialogue in missions, but almost all of it now is from your bridge officers, who can be any species or gender, which would make recording different versions of the dialogue costly. Combined with the fact that their actions and words rarely drive the plot forward, make it pretty reasonable in my eyes. Barriers, I guess, to keep them silent. So space is 3-dimensional, and so is your movement in it. Most of the time, missions take place on more or less a 2D plane, with everything being a little above or a little below where you spawn. Sometimes they mix it up a little, though, usually to my annoyance. The minimap only works into dimensions, so objectives can be difficult to find without obvious visual markers. Commander Jean-Claude drops in almost a full 10 kilometers directly above you. Did the game expect you to have flown up there? The only thing up there is that guy, and he only shows up after you get there. Maybe it was supposed to feel like an ambush, but for me it just felt like a pain in my ass to fly up there. The combat in this game to this point has been consistently easy. The only death I've had so far was from the Doomsday machine exploding after I killed it, and I've only come close to death once since then. The combat is getting tougher though, little by little. There are no big battles in this mission to really batter the player, but things like positioning and power use are becoming more important even in one-on-one fights. Having to think a little more in combat helps things along here. This mission took about half an hour but managed not to drag, which has been a consistent problem so far. So it wasn't a drag, but was it fun? Yeah, pretty fun time, I would say. This mission was more focused on building a storyline than combat encounters, but there was still enough of both to keep a good balance. And there's some interesting stuff happening here. Taris thinks she's working with Iconians, but they've all been dead for thousands of years, so who was Phone? Then again, there's a whole story arc called The Iconian War, so maybe the Iconians was Phone. Either way, it's nice to have an ongoing story, and this mission was pretty fun. I feel like I should also mention somewhere that this mission has the first appearance of a classic Stowe minigame Match the Waveforms. I didn't realize you could use the arrow keys on these for far too long, but now that I know they're not so bad, they break up the gameplay a little in sections that are otherwise pretty boring. So, overall this mission was a good time, but not without its faults. I'm giving it a Jane Lane certified 7 out of 10.
Daria Morgendorfer, Jane Lane, and Carl Brutan Nedeluski voices generated using 15.ai.